So, hello everyone and welcome to the second episode of Careering. Today I have Lela with me, and she is from the United States but is currently working as an au pair in Spain, here in Madrid. She actually has an undergraduate degree in history from Brown University and a master's degree in education from Arizona State University. So let's find out about her story and how she ended up here. I wanted to ask you what your intentions were when you first started studying or when you first started looking for a job.
Sure. So when I went to Brown University and started studying, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted my career to be, but I knew I wanted to do something that was helping children who lived in poverty or in communities that were traditionally underserved. Mm-hmm. My parents both kind of work in the social justice field, and that's always been really important to me, but I wasn't sure how I wanted to help.
Okay, so and then after your undergraduate studies or during the undergraduate studies, you decided that you wanted to move into the direction of education?
Yes, so when I had done a lot of work tutoring students, and when I was a senior in the beginning of my last year of university, I heard about this program called Teach for America, which was a program that helped you get your teaching degree, and you learned how to teach in a school in the United States that was traditionally in a community that was underserved, didn't have a lot of teachers consistently working there, where the students had a lot of needs. And so I thought it sounded like a good opportunity to try out teaching and to work in these communities and learn more. And so I applied for the program and I got in, and I moved across the country to Phoenix to do that program.
After the program, did you have a choice of staying with it and continuing as a teacher?
You had a choice to stay as a teacher. So it was at least a 2-year commitment, and then you could decide if you wanted to continue teaching at that school, or you could teach at a different school, or you could do something different in education.
So what did you decide to do?
I got very interested in changing the system because I really cared about my kids, and I thought if I can be part of something that makes schools better places for kids to learn and for teachers to teach, then I can have kind of a bigger impact than just my classrooms.
So you actually acted on this idea of creating a better system, right?
Well, I tried. So I decided that what I wanted to do would be to apply for jobs to work on federal policy. So doing work with an organization that would work with the White House, the president, and Congress, our government, to improve the laws and funding for education. I sent out maybe 30 applications to different organizations with kind of the criteria that those were all organizations that wanted to improve conditions for kids, either through education or through some sort of like social services in the community. And I got hired as a lobbyist or policy analyst for the National Parent-Teacher Association, which is known better as the PTA in the United States, to work on their education policy and their juvenile justice policy.
So you spent 2 years trying to change policies, and then through connections you arrived at your next job.
Yes, so I had been thinking about leaving my first job, and I had told some friends, and one of the friends that I told, she had recently left her policy job to help another woman start an organization that was going to be focused just on Washington, D.C. itself, and the schools and communities in Washington, D.C. And the goal of that organization was going to be to help teachers and schools work with families more effectively. The organization was very new. At that time, it was just my friend and an executive director, her boss, and the woman who founded it, who's kind of our board president. So they had just decided what they wanted to do, but they weren't sure how they were going to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. They invited me in to just talk to them a little bit about my experience and what I thought they should do. And after that talk, they called me and said, we would like to hire you to come work here. So I got very lucky in that circumstance. So I left my job at the National PTA and came to the organization, which was called Flamboyan Foundation. And that's where I stayed for the next 5 years.
And then you decided to leave. So would you like to tell us more about that?
So, when you work for a really big organization that's growing a lot, you become really, really busy. So about 4 years into the job, I realized, okay, maybe this is not exactly what I want to do. But I was so exhausted from all the work, I couldn't really figure out what I wanted to do next while my head was sort of still focused on my old organization. So I knew that the first thing I wanted to do was take a step back and take a little bit of a break to just reflect on, okay, what do I really like about working and what do I care about? And what would I like to do differently or learn more? Mm-hmm. So I talked to my boss at my job and I said, what I think I'm going to do next short term is move to Spain and be an au pair.
How long did it actually take you to decide that you were going to take this big step? Because I'm sure it took a lot of courage to say, okay, I quit and I'm quitting for a job that's maybe also not as profitable as what you're doing.
Yes, no, definitely not. Definitely not. So it took about a year. So I think, first of all, I think when you're thinking about switching your career, there are a lot of hard questions you have to ask yourself. And I don't even think now, I've answered all of them yet. But I think the first question is, what do I like? Why am I leaving? What do I really not like about this job versus working at all? Because working is really hard in general. So I think I started to think about, okay, will I actually be happier if I'm doing something different? And the answer was yes. So that reflection started a year ago. And then the other thing is, I think when you're at an organization that, I know I just called it big a few minutes ago, but it actually is still small in the scheme of things, like 20 people, and you have a lot of responsibility. You can't just up and go. You want to leave really responsibly. So I gave my boss 6 months notice and really helped her plan, okay, if I'm going to be gone.
Finding someone new, a replacement for you.
Yeah, I found a replacement for me. I helped organize the team. I talked to her about what are the big things I'll need to do in the next 6 months to make you feel like I've transitioned this responsibly. My boss says that, one of a big job skill people need is being able to leave things gracefully. And that's really, really important.
That's a great lesson that everyone else out there should really memorize. Has the time here given you inspiration or motivation about what you want to do next?
To be super honest, I hoped that I would come here and 3 months later when I returned to the United States, I'd say, okay, I want to be a doctor or I want to do this. And I'm not exactly there yet, but the time here has taught me a couple of important lessons. First, Spanish. I've been able to work on my Spanish. But secondly, I've really enjoyed being an au pair and working with kids directly. And it's reminded me how much joy I get from activities like that. So that's been helpful. So given those reflections, one of the things I had thought about doing is going into healthcare. Because that's a job where you really do get to work with people on a daily basis. And even if you become advanced in your career, it doesn't take away your ability to work with
You're
people.
always going to have the connection directly to
exactly.
the people that need the help. So finally, what advice do you have to give to those who are watching?
I think one, take my advice with a grain of salt would be my first piece of advice. But that said, I think that for me, when I'm thinking about a career or what to do, it's become most important to me to just be happy and like what I do. I think a lot of times when you start out in school and you go to a good university, there's a lot of pressure to do what's the most prestigious, what's going to sound fancy, and to think about climbing the ladder. And while I think that's really important, I think what I've learned is that what's most important is getting up every day and really enjoying and finding meaning in what you're doing. The other thing I've learned from this experience, from moving to Spain and leaving my job, is no one else is ever going to give you kind of that kick in the pants to make the change and do what you want to do. And it's really scary to leave a lot of security to try something new and do the unknown. But I think it's worth it. A lot of people have a feeling sometimes, I think, of being trapped in what they said they were going to do or what they were going to study. And the reality is the only thing that's trapping us is ourselves and what we think. So I think if you can kind of shake yourself free of that notion, then you're doing yourself a big service in finding what you want to do.
I really hope that I get to interview you again in maybe a couple of years, and then we can all find out how it went,
We'll see. Let's all cross our fingers.
I'm sure it'll go really well, and I wish you all the best, and thank you so much for doing this interview with me today.
Oh, thank you.
It really inspired me, and I'm sure it's gonna encourage a lot of you out there to make changes in your life and to really follow your passion. So thank you, and thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!